What if I told you a child abuse case was quietly sealed, no trial, no headlines, no justice? The victim? Ignored. The accused? Protected. The judge? Still presiding. And the system? Silent. For years, no one asked questions. No one dared. Until one envelope handwritten, no return address landed where it wasn't supposed to. Or maybe exactly where it needed to. When former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi walked back into that courthouse, it wasn't about politics. It was about a system that failed and someone finally saying, enough. Because this isn't just a courtroom drama. This is what happens when silence gets too loud to ignore. Before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Do you believe the justice system protects the powerful or the people? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading everyone. The Florida State Courthouse in Tallahassee had weathered it all: intense trials, political spectacle, even a Category 3 hurricane that once tore the roof clean off. But nothing compared to the stillness that settled in the morning Pam Bondi stepped through its doors again. 5 years had passed since she'd stepped inside a courtroom, not as a spectator, not for press, but with intent. Once Florida's Attorney General, Bondi had built a name confronting corporate fraud and high-profile criminal cases. Tough, media-savvy, controversial. After years under the spotlight, she'd stepped away, said she was done. But then came the envelope. No return address, just a crooked, handwritten scrawl on the front. At first glance, it looked like junk mail, but something made her open it. Maybe the uneven lettering, maybe instinct. Inside, a note from a child. They said it was over. But he still lives down the street. I see him at the grocery store. Sometimes, I still hear the door. Folded behind it a second page. Older paper. Faded handwriting. They buried the case. Please, help us. The signature at the bottom? A mother's first name. No surname, no contact info. But Bondi had seen enough letters like this in her career to know when one wasn't just a cry for help, but a warning. She followed procedure, filed a formal motion to unseal with the clerk's office, citing potential mishandling of evidence and new information justifying judicial review. She attached the child's letter as Exhibit A, and now she was back, file in hand, walking into courtroom 3C with a silence that spoke louder than any headline. The staff noticed, not loudly, but enough. One bailiff leaned to another. Is that Pam Bondi? Didn't think she still practiced. At the bench, Judge Leonard Vicks adjusted his robe. Mid-60s, known for strict control and quick rulings. He glanced at the clerk's docket and frowned. What's this about reopening a sealed case? Motion from Miss Bondi, the clerk whispered. Filed under Jane Doe, sealed in late 2018. That was shut tight. No surviving testimony, no press. Why now? Pam sat alone. No co-counsel, no press liaison, no political advisors. Just her, the letter, and a memory of a system she once helped hold together, now threatening to fall apart. Across the aisle, Assistant State Attorney Madison Klein skimmed through the motion she'd only just received that morning. Early 30s, newly promoted. Her face carried the mixture of confusion and tension you get when you know something big is about to happen and you're not in control of it. Miss Bondi, she said cautiously, I wasn't aware you were representing anyone in this jurisdiction. I'm not, Pam said calmly. I'm here on behalf of the truth. All rise. Judge Vicks stepped onto the bench, his face unreadable. Miss Bondi, he began, you've submitted a request to reopen a sealed case, one with no current plaintiff, no confirmed suspect, and no supporting testimony on file. What exactly is it you're trying to achieve here? Pam stood. No grandstanding, no drama, just the slow confidence of someone who'd walked into courtrooms like this one more times than she could count. To correct a mistake, she said. And maybe stop more from happening. She passed a folder to the bailiff. Inside were 3 things: the child's letter, a sworn statement from the mother signed, dated, and notarized, and a copy of the initial police report, partially blacked out, that somehow never reached the courtroom. Judge Vicks raised an eyebrow as he skimmed the note. "This is your new evidence? A letter from a minor and a desperate mother?" "It's not just a letter," Bondi replied. "It's a trigger, a reason to look again. Because if even half of what's in that envelope is true, then this court ignored a crime. Maybe more than one." The room went still. "Miss Bondi," the judge said sharply, "if this turns out to be political theater, I will not hesitate to hold you in contempt." She didn't blink. "I've seen politics," she said. "This is something else. This is failure. And I'm not here to exploit it. I'm here to expose it." The judge narrowed his eyes, flipping through the motion again. The assistant DA stood. "Your Honor, we haven't had time to verify any of these claims. The original case was closed after insufficient evidence. Multiple agencies reviewed it." Pam didn't even turn. "Reviewed, maybe. Resolved?" She took a breath, then looked up not just at the bench, but toward the gallery, the clerk, the live stream camera. "There are names in that folder, and patterns. 3 other sealed cases. Same prosecutor, same outcome. No trial, no media, no justice." Now the courtroom wasn't just silent, it was tense. The judge cleared his throat, clearly weighing something. "You're asking me to relitigate ghosts, Miss Bondi?" "No," she said. "I'm asking you to unbury them, you." Judge Vicks's warning still lingered in the room as Pam Bondi placed the next folder carefully on the table. Her movements were exact, not theatrical, not hurried. Just the calm precision of someone who understood exactly how the courtroom functioned, and how often it failed. "This isn't just about one letter, Your Honor," she said. "It's about a pattern, a failure of due process repeated across multiple sealed cases." Vicks leaned forward. "Miss Bondi, be extremely careful with what you're implying." Pam didn't flinch. She tapped the manila folder. "I'm not implying anything. I'm submitting Exhibit B into the record." She opened it. 3 separate cases, all sealed between 2017 and 2020. All involved minor victims. Same prosecutor, same judge. Each one dismissed quietly, no trial, no media, no access to public records. Parents were warned against speaking out. In 2 cases, they were threatened with civil defamation suits if they did. A ripple moved through the gallery. You could see the shift in posture, people leaning forward, eyes narrowing. Even court staff glanced up from their desks. Assistant District Attorney Madison Klein stood quickly. "Objection. None of this was submitted via proper pretrial channels. This is procedural ambush." Pam turned to her, calm but direct. "Objection noted. But the proper channels have been manipulated or ignored. That's the problem." She turned back toward the bench, voice clear. "One of the victim's social workers resigned shortly after case number C, 2018-147 was sealed. I tracked her down last month. She provided a sworn affidavit notarized, on record stating she was pressured by someone in authority to withhold testimony. She was told, and I quote, 'If you speak out, you'll never work again in this state.'" Judge Vicks leaned back, nostrils flaring. "This is speculation, unverified. A courtroom is not a forum for conspiracy." "No, Your Honor," Pam replied, steady. "But it is a forum for truth, and sometimes the truth isn't convenient." He slammed his gavel once. "You're walking a very thin line, Miss Bondi." But she didn't back down. She reached for another envelope. "This is Exhibit C. A statement from the clerk's office confirming chain of custody issues in the original filing. Missing documents. Redacted without authorization. Pages removed from police transcripts without digital log entries. Gasps again this time, from the jury box. Klein stepped forward. Your Honor, this is a coordinated attempt to undermine the integrity of this court. Miss Bondi is making baseless accusations. Pam interrupted, but her tone didn't rise. I'm pointing to a consistent pattern of misconduct by the prosecution, suppression of critical evidence, and bias from the bench. And I'm backing it up with sworn statements, documented timelines, and witness confirmation. This isn't a performance. It's a formal call for accountability. Judge Vicks looked like he wanted to strike the gavel again, but hesitated. I remind you, Miss Bondi, this courtroom does not tolerate grandstanding. Then let's skip the performance, Pam said. She pulled a USB drive from her briefcase. Permission to present Exhibit D, an audio recording from the original courtroom clerk, dated November 6, 2018. Denied, Vicks snapped. That recording was not submitted through verified channels and may violate state privacy laws. But it was too late. The screen behind the bench flickered to life as the clerk, trembling, pressed play. The audio crackled. Faint, but clear. A man's voice. Shut it down. We can't have this on record. I don't care what the mother says, seal it. Another pause. Then the same voice. If you want to work in this town again, you'll do what I say. No names, no titles, but the voice was unmistakable. It was Judge Leonard Vicks. The courtroom froze. Not a gavel, not a murmur, just the stunned, heavy stillness that settles when the truth cuts deeper than anyone expected. Pam didn't move, didn't smile. She simply removed the drive and placed it back in her case. Would you still like to dismiss my motion, Your Honor? Vicks didn't respond. Didn't even blink. A bailiff shifted. A cough echoed. Even Klein looked stunned, her fingers clenching at the edge of the prosecution table. That recording, Vicks finally muttered, was obtained without a court order. It is inadmissible. Pam stepped forward. It was provided voluntarily by the former clerk, on her personal device. No hacking, no tampering. She came to me, not the other way around. He tried to interrupt, but she wasn't done. You're not being accused by me, Judge Vicks. You're being confronted by your own words. And viewers, this is where it stops being just a story. Ask yourself, how many voices were silenced because someone powerful didn't want the truth on record? If it happened here, where else has it happened? Because back in that courtroom, the balance was shifting, and for the first time in a long time, power was nervous. The courtroom didn't erupt. It froze. The voice on that recording, Judge Leonard Vicks, still echoed faintly as the last seconds faded from the speakers. But the damage was already done. You could feel it. In the silence, in the way even the court reporter stopped typing. No one looked at Vicks. Not yet. Madison Klein, the assistant DA, slowly sat down. Like her knees couldn't quite hold her anymore. Judge Vicks, hand still on the bench, stared at the blank screen. His lips parted, but no sound came. Only the faintest twitch in his jaw betrayed the war going on behind his eyes. Pam Bondi remained standing. Calm. Controlled. But under her jacket sleeve, her fingers trembled. She had seen moments like this before, just never from this side of the bench. Your Honor, she said, her voice level but edged with steel. I move to suspend further proceedings on the original case and initiate an ethics review under Florida Judicial Code, Title 5, Section 12. Vicks didn't respond. The clerk finally broke the tension. Your Honor, do you want to call a recess? He blinked, as if waking from a trance. That recording is inadmissible, he said, but his voice cracked. "It was obtained improperly. This is entrapment." Pam stepped forward, one hand on the folder she hadn't opened yet. "The recording includes a signed statement. It was given freely, under oath. The witness is ready to speak in court if needed. No one was forced. No rules were broken." "You manipulated a former court employee," he snapped, trying to regain control. "No, sir. I listened to one. Something this courtroom forgot how to do." The audience stirred. Subtle at first, a soft shifting of jackets, faint murmurs. But the atmosphere had changed. Klein stood again, her composure breaking. "Your Honor, in light of this, I recommend we pause all proceedings until the state attorney's office can—" Pam turned toward her. "Madison, you don't need to defend this. You didn't create it, but you have a choice now. So does everyone in this room." She turned back toward the gallery. "And now, this is where you, the viewer, come in. Have you ever wondered what silence looks like when it's dressed in robes and seated at the front of the room? Because that's what this was. Not justice, not order, just silence used as a shield." Back in the courtroom, Judge Vicks gripped the bench with both hands, red-faced, breathing heavy. "This is political assassination," he barked. "This is a circus, and Miss Bondi is playing ringmaster." But before he could continue, another voice interrupted. "No, Your Honor." It wasn't Pam. It wasn't Klein. It was the clerk, the same woman who had pressed play. She stood, hands shaking slightly, voice trembling but strong enough to carry through the room. "I lied for you," she said. "I shredded reports. You told me to. I sealed case files without proper authorization. I didn't know what else to do." You could hear the air leave the room. Phones were pulled from pockets. Reporters started typing. The live stream viewer count jumped. Pam didn't say a word. She let it land. "I'm ready to testify," the clerk added. "Under oath." Vicks stood abruptly. "Ms. Bondi, leave this courtroom. You're done here. I'm declaring your motion invalid and your actions contemptuous." Pam opened her briefcase, unfazed. "Then charge me with contempt," she said coolly. "But you'll have to do it in front of federal investigators." She pulled out a final folder. "This is Exhibit E, sworn affidavits from 2 additional families, different jurisdictions, same patterns, all under your docket." And now the gallery stirred in earnest. One juror, a Vietnam veteran wearing a Justice for All pin, stood up. "Your Honor," he said slowly, "with all due respect, I don't feel comfortable being part of this hearing with you still presiding." "Sit down," Vicks snapped. "This is my courtroom." Pam turned her head. "That's the problem. It was never supposed to be yours. It belongs to the people. And here's where I want to ask you something, viewer. Should a judge accused of misconduct be allowed to rule over his own investigation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because what happened next wasn't decided by legal theory or politics. It was decided by choice, by conscience, by courage. The bailiff finally stepped forward, quiet, controlled, but he wasn't looking at Bondi. "Sir," he said to the judge, "respectfully, I think we need to recess, or recuse." Vicks glared at him, a flash of the old authority returning. But then another voice came. "She has Exhibit F," the bailiff added. "She's not leaving." Nobody moved. Not the judge. Not the court clerk. Not even the bailiff. The silence that filled courtroom 3C wasn't just tense, it was heavy. The kind that settles in when power starts to shift. And everyone feels it. Pam Bondi stood tall at the center of it all. Her voice, when it returned, was clear and measured. "Exhibit F," she said. "Audio evidence, time-stamped, affidavit attached, confirms that sealed records were tampered with and at least 2 witnesses were threatened with prosecution if they came forward." Judge Vicks exploded. "Fabrication! Do you hear me? This is manufactured weaponized hearsay dressed up as due process." But Pam stayed calm. "What you're calling fabrication, Your Honor, is legally admissible evidence under Rule 901 of the Florida Evidence Code. And what you're doing right now shouting over it, that's called obstruction." Then, the doors at the rear of the courtroom swung open. Footsteps, measured, purposeful. Federal agents entered. No warning, no drama, just badges, suits, and legal authority. "Judge Leonard Vicks," said the lead agent, a woman in a dark blazer, "please step away from the bench." The judge froze. You could feel the air shift again, this time from confusion to panic. You have no jurisdiction here," Vicks said, struggling to keep his voice level. The agent pulled a warrant from her folder and handed it to the bailiff, who scanned it, then looked up at the judge with visible discomfort. "I'm sorry, sir," the bailiff said. "It's valid. Signed by the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Florida. The warrant authorized a federal probe into judicial misconduct, tampering with sealed state records, suppression of testimony, interference with active investigations. You're under federal investigation," the agent said. "You need to vacate the bench, now." Pam didn't move, but the room did. Reporters surged forward, phones lifted, court officers whispered. The gallery, once frozen, now trembled with motion. Vicks tried one last stand. "You people have no idea what you're doing. You think this ends with me?" Pam's voice was soft but unflinching. "Number, but it starts with you." The agents moved in. The judge stood frozen, too proud to fight it, too shaken to stop it. As they led him away, cameras erupted in bursts of light, and a storm of whispers trailed behind every step he took. The courtroom had seen many verdicts over the years, but nothing like this. And yet it wasn't over. Still watching? Because this is the part they never show you in the movies. The fallout. The reckoning. The real cost of speaking up. Back inside, the lead agent turned to Pam. "We're coordinating with the DOJ. Subpoenas are being issued across multiple districts." Pam nodded, almost silently. "There's more," she said. 3 other judges, same filing patterns, same prosecutorial behavior. I've compiled everything." She handed over a flash drive. A new one. The agent looked at it, then back at her. "You understand this could open something far bigger than just this courtroom." Pam looked at the gallery where 2 families now sat, crying quietly in the back row. "Good," she said. "It's about time someone did." And just when the dust started to settle, "Ma'am," came a voice from the side. It was the young court reporter. She was holding her tablet, eyes wide. "We just got word the DOJ's launching simultaneous operations. 5 courthouses: Miami, Tampa, Jacksonville, Orlando, and Ocala. Raids are already underway." Pam exhaled. Then, for the first time that day, she smiled. "They didn't just hear us," she said. "They believed us. By the time the Florida sun dipped beneath the skyline, courthouse steps once used for photo ops were now blanketed with news vans, satellite dishes, microphones, headlines bursting across every major outlet. Florida judge removed amid federal probe. Pam Bondi reopens sealed abuse case, triggers DOJ sweep. Victims finally heard after years in the dark. Inside courtroom 3C, most of the crowd had dispersed, but Pam Bondi stayed. She stood quietly at the clerk's desk, one hand resting on the folder that had set everything in motion, inside a single handwritten letter from a child who refused to stay unseen. It wasn't just a piece of paper anymore. It was evidence. And now, it was precedent. Federal Agent Marquez approached her. Calm, professional. We've confirmed operations in 4 other districts: Jacksonville, Tampa, Miami, and Orlando. Similar complaints, similar cover-ups. This is going to grow. Pam nodded. She didn't need to ask how big. She already knew. I'm not surprised, she said. Only surprised it took this long. The agent paused. You're aware this won't win you many allies inside the system? Pam glanced back at the courtroom, the walls, the silence, the people who stayed long after they had to. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here so no one has to write another letter like that again. In the hallway, a reporter caught up to her. Miss Bondi, do you have a statement for the press? She glanced toward the bench where one mother now sat, exhausted but relieved, then turned back. Just this, she said. Justice isn't a title, it's a decision. You make it or you don't. Every case, every time. Across Florida, the ripple began immediately. In Jacksonville, a family reopened a case that had been dismissed 5 years earlier. In Tampa, 2 senior prosecutors resigned by the end of the week. In Miami, a circuit judge quietly took an indefinite leave of absence. In Ocala, a clerk came forward with sealed transcripts that were never supposed to exist. The boy who wrote that letter? He was no longer just a forgotten victim. He had become something else entirely. A catalyst. Proof that when someone listens, really listens, silence doesn't get the last word. 1 week later, a new judge reviewed the reopened case. Openly, transparently. No closed doors, no hidden records. The outcome? The original defendant, a man long protected by influence and silence, was formally charged within 24 hours. The accusations, child endangerment, witness intimidation, and obstruction of justice. The media called it a takedown. But for the families who waited years, it was just the beginning. Pam Bondi didn't go back into politics. She didn't write a memoir. She turned down every major interview. Instead, she started showing up. Quietly, anonymously, sitting in the back rows of courtrooms, just watching, letting the system know someone was paying attention. She never carried a badge. She didn't need one. She carried something louder. A reputation for never staying silent. And if you're still watching, ask yourself something. Who's sitting silently in your courtroom? Whose story is buried under bureaucracy and fear? Because maybe, just maybe, you're the one meant to uncover it. Drop a comment if this story moved you. And if you believe in truth over silence, share it. Because sometimes, justice doesn't start with a courtroom. It starts with a voice,